Today is Tuesday, Chof Gimel, Menachem of Topshin Ein Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer Mamar Topshin Yud Aleph Topshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar of Rosh Hashanah Topshin Yud Beis, the Mamar Kevod Malchuscha, and we are at the bottom of page Kuf Mem Hey in Ois Daled, chapter 4. 3 lines from the bottom, the last line on the word, the last word on the line, ach, after the full stop. So before we go on inside, I want to go back to what we were discussing yesterday. The idea we are discussing now is the fact that you need both the utterance of the Psukim Malchius and the other Psukim to actually verbalize the verses of Torah that talk about Hashem's kingdom and His greatness and His and how wonderful it is for Hashem to be a king over the world. We're talking about, of course, the Avodah on Rosh Hashanah, our service on Rosh Hashanah. So we need to utter those words, those verses of Torah, and together with that, we also need to blow the shofar. The reason being because we need to construct Malchus, we need to reignite Hashem's desire to have pleasure from our service. And just to say the words of the Torah is not sufficient. It's great, but it's not sufficient. It's effective to the extent that Torah is rooted in the very highest levels, and by us uttering those words, we sort of touch those high levels. However, since we are uttering them with words, it's not sufficient because Malchus, the divine attribute of Malchus, which we are attempting to construct on Rosh Hashanah, is also called Dibur, speech. So therefore, just verbalizing it is not enough, and therefore we need the sound of the shofar, which is a pure sound, a simple sound, which denotes the expression from the very essence of the soul, which touches the very essence of Hashem. If that's the case, then why is shofar not enough? Let's just blow the shofar. Why do we need the words of Torah? That is the issue what we're discussing over here. The Rebbe is basically explaining from the Alter Rebbe's Maimer that if it was just a shofar, it would be too powerful and uncontainable for us and for the world. So we need the combination, the fusion of the two. Man uttering the words of Torah, man who encapsulates tikkun, order, the godly soul and the animal soul, and him working together with the godly soul working with the animal soul to bring about the tikkun, order, and shofar, which touches the very highest levels, toyu, which is beyond tikkun, the world of chaos, which is beyond the world of tikkun. So by having these two components together, we have a complete unit and a complete structure in order to draw down God's desire and pleasure in man's service from the very highest levels, beyond tikkun, beyond order, but in order. In the context of tikkun. So here the Rebbe is discussing the various ideas of how we see that if something is too powerful, if a godly revelation is too powerful, it's not containable. So we mentioned the idea of Pachad Yitzchak, right? Yaakov refers to Hashem when he talks about the God of Abraham. When Lavan meets him, as we discussed yesterday, he says the God of Abraham and the fear of Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was still alive, and again he was talking about a great revelation of godliness. God only unites His name upon the tzaddikim after they pass on, not when they're alive, because when they're alive it would be too powerful. Then he also brought the Talmud, which says Hashem stretched out His finger among the angels and burnt them up. We discussed that yesterday. And now we're talking about the angels that are created every day and expire. And that's where we left off. We touched on it, but we left off in the middle. So we'll try to elaborate. This is actually from the Zohar in Bereshis. When in the verse in Chumash it says Tad Shei Ha'aretz Desha, When Hashem wants to create vegetation, He says, may the earth give out desha, a covering of grass, right? So the Zohar goes on to explain what is the deeper meaning of this and what is the idea of grass. So he says as follows. I'm going to just say it to the best extent I can and as concise as I can. I'll make an attempt. Over here we're talking about Malchus, the attribute of Malchus, right? Malchus Datzilis. Malchus is, as mentioned quite a number of times, the divine attribute through which Hashem creates and through which Hashem descends into the world. That's why Malchus is also called Shechina, right? So Malchus is the final attribute through which everything that took place above that is transmitted to below. Creation takes place through Malchus. Of course, Hashem creates, but through Malchus. Revelation takes place through Malchus. Malchus is the action sphere, bringing everything down from all the celestial unities and so on and so forth to actually bring it down into the next realm, into reality, so to speak. So he says like this: Malchus is sometimes referred to as a field. You know, in Kiddush, you know those Aramaic words you say, Dohi Sudasa, right? It says Chakal Tapuchin Kadishin, the field of the holy apples. What's that reference to? Malchus. Malchus, the attribute of Malchus. Because Malchus is referred to as a field. Malchus is also sometimes referred to as an animal, a behemoth, right? Malchus is sometimes referred to as Kisei, the throne. The angels are sometimes referred to as grass and sometimes referred to as animals as well. But that depends on what reference to how we refer to Malchus, because there's an interaction between Malchus and the angels. And the point is this: we know that from every action that a person does, a mitzvah that a yid does, an angel is created, right? That's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Well, not quite exactly like that, but it's a mitzvah achas kainali praklit echad, right? But we know that this is also the Zohar says this on this pasuk in Tachi Desha, that when a yid does a mitzvah, an angel is created. When a yid engages in what is known as avodas habirurim, serving Hashem in the process of refinement, which means utilizing things l'shem shamayim for the sake of Hashem, eating for the purpose of serving Hashem, right? The food and the objects with which the person engages is from a klippa known as klippas noiga, the neutral klippa, which has the potential to be lifted to godliness and the potential to be made to descend into impurity and unholiness, depending on what the person does with it. When a person utilizes these objects for the purposes of serving Hashem, he lifts it to holiness. What also happens is an angel is created from that action. This is a daily occurrence. What happens to those angels that are created from these actions that the person does? They are consumed by Malchus. The Zohar says there is this great big animal that lies on 1,000 mountains. 1,000 is a reference to the Shleimus of Meichen. It's a whole Kabbalistic issue. Let's not get lost in those details because he mentions it here only obliquely, but we need to elaborate a bit to understand what he's talking about. And so basically from man's serving Hashem, these angels are created. What happens to these angels? They become bottled, they become nullified before Hashem. They become subsumed within godliness. They become consumed by godliness. Right? That's the idea of bittul, of expiring in their source.
Each day, you say?
Each day, these are angels that are created from the actions, the positive actions of the person, and they become bottled to godliness. That is the idea of Malchus consuming these angels, eating these angels, literally, swallowing up these angels. It's the idea of the angels created from the person's positive activities expiring within Kedusha and being consumed by godliness. Those are the angels that are created daily. Then we have angels that have been created in the 6 days of creation. Chazal say v'oif, v'oif. When Hashem created the birds, when it says v'oif, ze Michal, this refers to the angel Michal, right? I think it's Michal. But in any event, these are the angels that were created in 6 days during the 6 days of creation that exist for all time. Michal, Gabriel, etc., etc. The angels that we're familiar with through the various stories in the Torah and other sources. And as I mentioned yesterday, this is also the meaning of what we say in Birchas Kriya Shema, in Tizbarech, Yoitzer Mesharsim, the one that creates his hosts, he creates hosts, V'asher Mesharsav Kulam Eim Dubrim Elam, and whose hosts are standing, who are all standing in the height of the world. What is this Yoitzer Mesharsim? He creates the host continuously. When? Each and every day. How? Through the positive actions of the person. And then you have the angels that exist from the beginning of time to all time. So what do we see over here? Why are these angels that are created daily, why are they consumed by godliness? Why do they expire? Because there's such a tremendous revelation of Malchus. They feel this tremendous revelation, and what does it cause them to do? It causes them to expire. Again, the idea that when there is tremendous revelation, what happens? It causes expiration. It's not containable.
Like a moth going into a fire.
Correct. Then he also mentions that there are angels that are called Atze Shitim Oimdim, the cedar woods that stand steadfast. Again, these are angels that exist for all time. I'm just saying it outside orally, then we're going to go inside and be able to run through it. It says concerning the time to come, the Navi Yeshaya, the prophet Yeshaya says that what's going to happen when Mashiach comes, the nations of the world, Ubo b'ma'ar tzurim, they will come into the caves of the rocks, mipnei pachad Hashem, because of the fear of Hashem that is going to be, they're going to be so fearful of Hashem that they're going to hide in these caves in the rocks. Again, what's the idea? Tremendous revelation of godliness, not containable, not handleable, and therefore
expiration.
You run to hide from this tremendous revelation. Now let's try that aside.
Is that how the Birurim works? Is that what we're talking about? Is the elevation of the sparks that we're doing? Is that like the?
This is one. It's one element.
Process,
one element of it. In the Chassidus it says also, for example, why is it called feral grass? I don't want to go to all this because we know that it's Chotzer and there's Asev. It's called feral because sometimes these awakenings come almost by themselves. Like for example, Gadim, converts who suddenly are awakened with a desire to become close to godliness is because the spark that's inside of them is pushing out to be consumed and to be lifted into its source. So there's all sorts of nuances, but this is a general idea.
What was the context of this in terms of Din and Malchus?
Well, let's go inside now. So it's not in terms of Malchus, it's in terms of why we need to have Torah, and also why just saying the Psukim of Malchus, the verses of Malchus are not enough, and you need a shofar.
Right.
So then we said, so why is shofar not enough? Let's just do shofar. So shofar is too great a revelation to be contained. So you need the combination of both of them, in order to have this tremendously high revelation, and at the same time to be able to have it contained and tangible. So now let's try inside. Kufim Hey at the bottom.
What happens to the angels that are created through our negativity?
That's a besondere Maisa.
No.
But we've got to deal with that. But here we're talking about, he's only bringing it in for the purpose of illustrating that if there's great revelation, it's not containable, and therefore you need some kind of ingredient which will take this tremendous revelation and make it containable and tangible. So at the bottom of page Kufim Hey, the third line from the bottom, the last word on the line, Ach. However, just to blow the shofar alone, which as mentioned before, is this expression, this pure expression from the very essence of the soul, which touches the very essence of Hashem, right? That tkiyah alone is not enough. What is the idea of tkiyah? The idea of tkiyah is the drawing down of this simple sound from the highest level, from the highest source. If we would have that alone on Rosh Hashanah, it would not be enough. Why? Because then the created beings would not be able to receive this tremendously high revelation which the sound of the shofar brings down. Pachat Yitzchak. As we know, for example, Yaakov Avinu referred to Hashem as Pachad Yitzchak, the fear of Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was still alive, and whilst the tzaddik is still alive, the godly revelation in its ultimate state is not containable. And also, so we find in the Talmud, the Kamei, for example, Shehoishit etzboi beinehem, on the top of Kuf Mevov, V'sorfon, and he burnt them up. Hashem stretched out his finger among the angels, and they became burnt up. And he burned them up. What does that mean? Hashem revealed more than a usual revelation among the angels, and that caused them to expire. Why? How? Al yidei his galus er hagonus, by Hashem revealing the hidden light, Yosem Miklei Kabbalasson, more than their vessels are able to contain. V'yesh malachim, there are angels shenivroim b'chol yom ubtelim. So too we know that there are angels that are created every day and they expire. V'zehu matzmiach chatzil labehema, which is the idea of what it says in the verse in Tehillim in Baruch Nafshi, that Hashem makes sprout chotzir, feral grass for the animals. This is a reference to, as mentioned before, the angels that are created through a man's positive actions, and they sprout la behema for the purpose of being consumed by the behema, which is what? Malchus. And Gom Elohim b'gmi echad, Malchus swallows them up with one. This is a quote from the Zohar. He swallows them up with one swallow. What does that mean? It's the idea of the angels being consumed by godliness. Again, the idea of them coming into the presence of a tremendous revelation and being swallowed up. How? Al yidei his galus er kanal, as mentioned before, through the revelation of this tremendous light of godliness. V'yesh malachim anikroim atzishitim oimdim. And then there are other angels that are called the upright cedar woods, meaning to say that they stand constantly, they exist constantly, they are not created every day and expire, but rather they are there permanently. This is also the idea of what we say in the brachas of Kriya Shema. The one who creates hosts and whose hosts are standing in the height of the world. Again, the idea that you have angels that expire every day because of the tremendous revelation, because they can't handle it, but then you have other angels that are greater, as it were, and they are able to handle greater revelation, and therefore they exist permanently. And in the time to come, when there will be the revelation of godliness, a tremendous revelation of godliness, it says in the verse in Yeshaya, and they will come and they will enter into these caves of the rocks because of the fear of Hashem that will be revealed. So all this is what the idea, expressing the idea that if there's great revelation, more than usual revelation, it's not containable. Therefore, shofar, the tkiya, is not enough. So first of all, shofar is not enough. We need also the verses of Torah. And in shofar itself, just to blow the sound of the shofar is too great. So then we need the shvarim and the truah to follow the tkiya. And therefore, because the revelation of the shofar is so great, we need shvarim, we need the broken sound. What's the idea of the broken sound? Letavre tukpei. Letavre tukpei. To break this the force. As it says in Psalms, that Hashem, with his great might, crumbles the sea, which basically means taking this tremendously high revelation and breaking it down into more manageable and containable units, as it were. So that's Shvarim. Utrua, and then we come to the sound of the trumpet, staccato, the short ones, which is Yiluli Yolil, which is the idea of a whimpering, of crying, or sobbing. That's the idea of awakening mercy from the 13 attributes of Hashem's mercy. So basically, what he's saying up until this point is that Torah is not sufficient. You need the shofar in order to touch the higher level, right? The combination of the shofar with the Torah together is the idea of order and beyond order. And in the beyond order itself, we have devices which break down this tremendously high level into more manageable units. First, the tkiya, which is the expression of the pure sound, the very depth of the essence of the soul, which touches the very essence of Hashem. But then we break it down into shvarim, into more, it's crumbled down into smaller units. And then also we have the truah, which touches the 13 attributes of mercy. But this is all focused on what? On man's service, man's initiative. But then, after all of this, what do we come at the end? We don't stop there. We go back to the tkiyah. We go back to the pure sound. What's the point of the last pure sound? After all of this, we come to the last trumpeting, the last pure sound. Mimaila lamata. That's the idea again, from above to below. Which means the first part is us rising up towards its man's service. And then Hashem responds. The last sound is sort of Hashem's response to all of this and says, yes, you've touched me and here I am. So that we have an entire process of Rotzu, meaning our initiative going out of ourselves towards Hashem, and then V'shoiv, and then bringing it back down, coming back down here. At kan l'shein hamaymer, until here is the text of Reb Pinchas Reiser's transcript of the Alter Rebbe's Maimer. Okay, so we had 4 oisias, 4 chapters of the Alter Rebbe's Maimer. And here comes the Rebbe and gives the most wonderful explanation of this Maimer. Oisei, chapter 5. V'hinei, b'maimer Rabbeinu HaZoker anal mevuer kol zeh b'inyan malchus d'atzilus chum. In the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, all of this is explained. In which context? In the context of Malchus of Atzilus, the sphere, the attribute, divine attribute of Malchus in the world of Atzilus. And what is he talking about? He's talking about constructing, building Malchus of Atzilus on Rosh Hashanah. Aval be'emes, but in truth, Keinu gam be'madrego yisnai l'syeser be'ilui achar ilui hecher u'noch hecher. So too, the truth is though, he says, that this is exactly what happens in the higher levels. Higher and higher and even higher. In other words, what the Alter Rebbe describes that needs to happen, or that happens in the attribute of Malchus of Atzilus and Rosh Hashanah, actually happens in the dimension of Malchus. Not only in Atzilus, but whatever Malchus is in the realms beyond that. Because if you remember, as we learned in Basi Dagani, the first mimer of Tavshin Yud Aleph, that Malchus is contextual. So there's Malchus in Atzilus, then there's Malchus beyond Atzilus, there's Malchus in the world of Ein Sof, there's even Malchus, as it were, before the Tzimtzum. Right? The idea of Hashem wanting and deciding to reveal himself to the world before the Tzimtzum, that would be considered notionally the idea of Malchus before the Tzimtzum. So all of this takes place in all the levels. Why? The Hinei. Because that which was explained earlier in the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, that Rebbe just quoted, that on Rosh Hashanah everything reverts back to its original state, etc. It's not only the idea that everything becomes, the lower level sort of becomes subsumed within the higher level, and it just becomes concealed. We're talking about things actually being completely removed, right? And as the previous Rebbe explains in his Hasidic discourses of Rosh Hashanah, that the removal that takes place within the divine attribute of Malchus is in a mode of such a concealment that it is not in existence, so to speak. There is something which is concealed, but it exists. In other words, it's there and it's covered up. There's another idea which means that it's not only is it there but covered up, it's removed. It's taken away completely. It's not just that it's hidden from others to see, but it's actually completely removed. When we talk about things reverting or retracting, as it were, back into their source, it's not just that they become concealed. They're there, but they're hidden. It actually means that it's removed. The concealment of this attribute of Malchus is in a mode of removal. He becomes, how do you say Uis in English? Non-existent. Similar to the removal of the Ein Sof, the Eid Ein Sof, at the first contraction, at the Tzimtzum Rishon. Right? That we say that it was removed. Not just covered up. So what's the point of all this? Move on. That the concealment and the removal of the attribute of Malchus Huleirak b'malchus de'atzilus that takes place not only in the divine attribute of malchus as it is de'atzilus, elegam b'chol hamadreges shebemalchus, but also in all the levels of malchus. Ad b'chinus malchus de'insof, to the extent that this removal also takes place where? In the attribute of malchus as it is in the Ein Sof, because otherwise it's not genuine removal. So if that's the case, so the Rebbe basically says that all this takes place in all the levels. So therefore, let's at least do the question that the Rebbe asks in the beginning of chapter 6. A beautiful question, and which is a famous question in Chassidus, but the answer that the Rebbe gives here is quite novel. So let's look at the question first. Chapter 6. According to this, we will have even a greater question, a stronger. The question will become even stronger. Madua nikba Rosh Hashanah being involved in the Ma'aseh Bereishis dafka. Why was Rosh Hashanah established to take place, to be celebrated, to be marked on the 6th day of creation, Yom Brei Adam Rishon, which is the day Adam Rishon, the first man, was created, V'lei b'chafei Elul, not on the 25th of Elul, She'az haya brias kol ha'olam. On the 25th of Elul, that's when the whole world was created. That was the beginning of creation. Why should it be on the first day? Because at Einyon, Yishon Rosh Hashanah Uhelam B'Sidka Malchus, Ad L'Shosha Rishon, because as we just explained, what's the idea of Rosh Hashanah? It's the idea of the concealment and the removal of the divine energy as it is in Malchus. And it's retracted and it's removed back to its original source. And it's from that original source that the new flow of energy to the world is renewed and brought back down, just as it was at the first point of creation. If that's the case, then Rosh Hashanah should have been set for the 25th of Elul, when that was the first point of creation and when all creatures were created. Why was Rosh Hashanah set for the 6th day of creation, on which day was created only what? The body of Adam of the first man of Adam Rishon. Because the souls of the human beings, the souls of man, existed already before the 6th day of creation. And not only did it exist before the 6th day of creation, but souls of man even existed before the entire creation. As our sages tell us in the Medrash, the thought, Hashem's thought about the Jewish people, about the creation of the Jewish people, precedes everything, which means what? That Hashem conceived the souls of Yidden even before creation, even before the first day of creation. And that which was innovated, and that which was created on the day man was created, was only the existence of his body. Because what happened? What does we say? Hashem formed the body, and then He blew into his nostrils a soul. But where did that soul come from? It existed before. He didn't create the soul at that point. So if that's the case, then I've asked this tremendous question. Since we say that on Rosh Hashanah everything reverts back to as it to how it was at creation, at the first point of creation, or just before creation. So therefore, mark Rosh Hashanah when? On the first day of creation, on the 25th of Elul. Why do we mark it on the 6th day of creation when man was created? I'll give all the kasha. For the answer, you'll have to attend tomorrow's shiur.
We won't sleep.